Hey everybody! I'm here today to talk to you about staining versus painting. I'll be going over what's the difference between the two. Oftentimes you'll be given either option. Do you want to stain the wood or do you want to paint the wood? Whether it's a backyard fence or a kitchen cabinet or anything of that nature, you're usually given both options. So I'm going to go over sort of the differences and the pros and cons of each. Let's get right into the video. First and foremost, I will demonstrate applying both of these to the wood. So I have some stain over here and some paint over here, okay? So we're going to start off by applying the paint. Now for the paint, I'm just going to use a brush to paint it along the top over here, okay? So I'm just gonna get the brush. This was some sample paint. My wife and I had just painted a bedroom recently, and this is just a sample that we had gone over. So I'm just gonna paint it on. This is how you apply paint, essentially. You just paint it on, okay? And I'll go over what the differences are between stain and paint in a moment, okay? So you can see you paint it on with a brush, and you're done. When you've done that, you're finished. Now for stain on the other hand, and I'm going to move the camera up just a little bit. For stain on the other hand, you apply it to the wood, but then you rub it into the wood, okay? So I'm going to put a glove on, a rubber glove, just because you can see it's right over here, a very large rubber glove. Just because you don't want to get this stuff on your hands. It takes so long to come out. I made the mistake of staining one time without a glove on, and it just took so long to get out of my hands. So for stain, you can apply it to the wood with a paintbrush, with a rag, many different ways, but the most important thing is that you rub it or you wipe it into the wood when you're done. So as you can see right here, sorry about that, that's just the garage light that just went off. I still have another light for filming this though. I'm going to be using a paintbrush to apply it, and then I'm going to be just sort of rubbing it with a rag. So I have just a rag over here to rub it into the wood so that it gets absorbed. And then I'll go over the differences. So I'm just going to use this paintbrush. I got way too much on here. I'm going to just get some off of here. Put way too much on there. So with the paintbrush now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply it to the wood. Okay. So you can say I applied it to the wood. And I'm going to let it sit for just a brief moment. Okay. And then once it sits on the wood for a moment, you can wipe it in. So some people like to just wipe it in right away. I like to let it sit and then wipe it in. So the first difference is in the application. So you can see with paint, we just painted it on with a paintbrush. And with the stain, we painted on with a paintbrush, but we're gonna do the additional step right now, which is to rub it with a rag. Now, usually I would probably let it sit for a little bit longer, but this is just a spare piece of 2x4 that I had. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to wipe it off right now because I don't care if it looks amazing or not. Okay, so I'm going to take this rag and I'm going to wipe it. Okay, and you can see what's happening with the stain now. So check this out. Here's the first difference. Paint goes on top of the wood. You can see it actually sits on top of the wood. Whereas stain gets absorbed into the wood. You can see that the stain actually went into the wood. Okay, the paint goes on top and the stain gets absorbed into the wood. That's the first main difference, okay? Actually, on the other side of this piece of wood, now that I think about it, I had stained this previously with a different stain. This was actually like almost like a homemade stain that I made for a different video. So I made a different video about like making sort of like a homemade stain right over here. And that would have been released a while ago at the time of me filming this. So you probably have already seen it, but that's an example of what it looks like with a deeper color, okay, when it sits for longer. So with this right here, this one, I let it sit for much longer. Yeah, I let it sit for much longer, and it was just a different type of stain. But anyways, that's the idea there, that it gets absorbed into the wood, whereas paint goes over top of the wood. Now, the second difference is that paint will hide all of the wood's features. So any knots, any grain in the wood, paint is going to hide it. Whereas on the other hand, stain will show it, and not only show it, but exaggerate it. So with the stain, you can see all of the grain of the wood, and that knot right there is super exaggerated. So not only will the stain show the grains and the imperfections in the wood, but it will exaggerate them. You can see here with this other stain, look, it shows and it exaggerates this even, right? But it shows all of the grain in the wood. So it's just a matter of what you want to accomplish. Do you like the look of the wood that you're going to be, covering up? Because if so, you might want to consider staining it if you like the way that it looks. If there's too many imperfections and it doesn't look great and you're going to be using wood filler everywhere, then you might want to consider paint. But that's basically it. In this video, I just wanted to go over the differences and sort of show you, the differences in application, the differences in how they sit on the wood, and the differences in what they show, whether they show the grain or whether they hide the grain. That's it. If you like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. Let me know what you think down below as a comment. And of course, be sure to subscribe for more great videos just like this one. And that's all I have for you today. Thanks for watching.